Hi, my name is Sharon, and I am the clinical director of the Listening Centre. And this idea of putting a course together to help you do what I do actually came about it was in lockdown actually. Um, and I'm no radio presenter. I haven't got a voice for radio or a face for telly. So doing this sort of stuff is, yeah, I'm a fish out of water, really. So lockdown changed all that, didn't it? So what I wanted to do is to give you a little bit of an introduction as to why am I putting on this course? What is it all about? Where am I coming from? And do I even know what I'm doing? Because that's the sort of stuff I'd want to know. Okay, so what I thought I'd do is just very briefly give you my career bio and I suppose just to give you some reassurance that you're in safe hands and I kind of do know what I'm talking about. If I don't know now, flipping heck, there's trouble. There is a lot of trouble. Okay. So, yeah, I suppose my journey into where I am now sort of began when I left school. I'm not going to be that long, don't worry. But I wanted to join the RAF when I was at school. And whilst I was waiting, there was like a 9 month wait. I actually worked as a telesales clerk for TNT, the parcel delivery company. I think they're still going. And in that 9 month period, I learned how to pick the phone up and sell. And they taught me, they were ever so good, features and benefits. And some people would say I've got the gift of the gab, but I did it. I did 40 calls a day, 10 appointments to my sales rep, and I liked it. It was good. And whilst that job was happening, I learned how to sort of showcase a service, a product, which came in very handy much further on down the line. Anyway, I joined the RAF at 17, did 8 years in a really high pressure job, experienced trauma, went to counselling, as is a lot of the cases where counsellors gravitate into the profession is because we're clients first, and that was my story. And when I left the military, I met my husband in the military, and I thought, yeah, counselling, that's what I'm going to do next. So when I left, I embarked on counselling training. In the day, I got a job as a personnel officer for a local production engineering company and moved around a little bit in that arena. Did recruitment for a year. Oh, that was interesting. Not. And yeah, so in the day, I was working full time in HR stuff, HR type roles. And in the evening, I was going to college. So I did it the hard way. Um, Spent 5 years doing that. Took a year out in the middle and qualified in 2002. So when I was training, working in HR, I was starting to see an opportunity, you might say. Now, the EAP world as we know it now didn't really exist back then. I sound ever so old. And I just thought, yeah, I could work with companies here, local companies. They could, I was getting the sick notes coming in with like depression, anxiety, whatever, or stress as it was back then. And I thought, well, I could help them. I think they need to get, some support somehow. So this idea was percolating in my brain. And when I qualified in 2002, I was going through IVF at the time. I then had twins in 2003. And so this idea of how am I going to, go from being a career girl to becoming a mum of two, but also needing to bring some money in. And hubby said, look, if you can bring enough money in to cover the mortgage, then I'll support you. So I got my calculator out and I was doing my maths and it worked out at 4 clients a week. And I thought, yeah, I could do that. That's possible. Very doable. So I kind of decided to wrap my private practice around being a mom. And I literally, my two girls would go to bed at 7 and I'd start working quarter past, and I would go till 11 o'clock at night. And I started seeing clients in the evening, bish bash bosh. But meanwhile, because I've got this business acumen, I thought, yeah, I'm going to start targeting companies. So I remember my first ever break um, was with my local council, my local district council. They're still one of my customers now. And oh man, that sweet feeling when that first check came in, it was amazing. But yeah, they took a risk on me because I'd turned up with a folder full of bumps saying, "Oh, well, I can do this and I can do that," and they must have thought, okay. But there we are. One local authority speaks to another, and then my reputation started to grow. And I never rushed it. I was never ever in a rush. I'd got the girls to look after, so this was a very slow burn. And I would take myself down to the library. Back then, they had a reference section where all of the local businesses in the district were listed, directors' names, phone numbers, emails, number of employees, all that stuff that you'd want and need. So I actually got like a folder like this thick of leads, and I'd start ringing round. So there comes my telesales training back, and I'd gave myself probably 5 years to get it going, so to speak. And I'll never forget the one particular customer. I must have rang him once every 6 months, and I'm very cheeky and chatty. And I said, "Oh, can I ring you in 6 months?" Yes. And then eventually, I think about 2 years later, I said, "Look, can I come and see you and talk about this?" And he's like, "Oh, go on then." And that was the occupational health manager of Stafford Hospital. And I thought, yes, got there. So off I trotted, and he kind of he took a pun on me. And he said, "Look, we haven't got a budget for counselling, but I'll give you 2 clients a week in the occupational health department at Stafford." So I was trekking over to Stafford. I was going over to Burton-on-Trent. Um, And my supervisor said, "Oh, Sharon, you just can't keep doing this. You're dotting around the county like a ping pong ball. You need help." And I'm like, "I know." So she suggested she puts me in touch with one of her other supervisees, and it happened to be a nurse from the IVF clinic I was being treated by all those years ago, and I was like, "Flipping it, this is meant to be." So I sort of acquired an affiliate counsellor by accident, in a sense. And so I thought, "Oh, okay, I need to put something together here. I need a contract." And then everything started to grow very, very slowly. And I literally winged everything. I never had a business plan. I would sit and do the telesales myself. I'd put together Excel spreadsheets. I created an Access database for all of my leads. And eventually it started to come. I also got EAPs starting to contact me to work for them as an affiliate. So I was also getting the affiliate experience, and I didn't like it. I just didn't like how I was treated. They never came and interviewed me in person, and I'm like, well, I could look great on paper, but I could be useless. Back to my recruitment days, so I would always want to look at the whites of their eyes, and the fact that these EAPs would just get me to fill a form in, and they'd start sending clients to me. I was just aghast, really, thinking, well, look, this isn't right, and they're not screening me, and well, we might not be the right fit, but in a sense, it was an income stream for me. So I didn't say no. But after a while, and all this paperwork, and they all work differently, and I just thought, no, I just was treated like a number, didn't like that, walked away from it, and just thought, just keep focusing on what you're doing. You know what you're doing, just do it. And literally, I didn't have any guidance. I didn't have a coaching, training, nothing. So when the girls started school, I could see there was a big opportunity for me to grow. And Stafford Hospital, their Occy Health Department, would provide occupational health services to local companies who would subcontract that in or out. And so when they were seeing staff members of local companies at Occy Health in Stafford, they would say, "Oh, this person actually could do with some counselling. We use the listening centre. Would you like us to refer them there?" And that's how I started to get more business. One of their customers was Staffordshire Ambulance. And so I would start seeing Staffordshire Ambulance staff members through Occy Health. God, this is a mouthful. And they then got took over, was it 2016, 2014, something like that. by West Midlands Ambulance. And they kind of came to me and they said, look, we've heard all about the work you do at Staffordshire Ambulance. We use Bupa. They're very expensive. We don't rate them. No, no offense, Bupa. We'd like to start using you. And I was like, oh, okay. Now that work literally landed on my lap. And what it did is it grew my geography exponentially because I was only working in Staffordshire and West Midlands Ambulance. They got Coventry, Warwickshire, Worcester, Hereford, Shropshire. So it just grew. And I was like, oh. So I had to go on a massive recruitment campaign. And what I would always do is go to visit the counsellors in their house, in their places of work and really screen them, put them through their paces. And some counsellors said, no, I don't want you to come. And if you don't want me to work for you based on what you see on my profile, then I'm not going to work for you. And I'm like, you're doing the right thing. Because for me, when a counsellor is representing the listening centre, they're representing me. And I want to be assured that they are the right fit for my culture. So yeah, if someone's, too precious to be screened or interviewed, then that's right. They did the right thing by saying no. Um, I operate on would I want to come to you for counselling? And if the answer is no, then I wouldn't employ you as a counsellor. So I'm very, very strict and picky with my team. And as such, uh, the team I've got are just amazing. I wouldn't swap them for anything. They're just the best in the business in this area anyway. And with customers came different requests. So I worked really hard at establishing those relationships with HR, whoever it was that was employing me. And they'd say, Sharon, can you come and do some training on whatever? And I happened to be, I'd done some teaching for my local college. They paid for me to do my cert ed actually. And that was from my supervisor, good old supervisors. Um, so I love teaching. So yes, I was able to put workshops together and I go, yeah, I can do that. The answer is say yes to everything and then work out the hell out why afterwards. Then came along trauma. So when there'd been a suicide or a death, the customer would go, can you come and help? And I'd go, yeah. And of course, because of the work I'd done in the military, it just was an easy transition for me to provide that support. Um, and I don't subscribe to any particular trauma model. I know the TRIM model and there's 8-stage model, etc. But I just thought, what would I want if that was me? And I've always applied that philosophy, and it's always worked for me. I've got a bit of a knack at understanding what people want. Um, so yeah, that's probably the secret to my success is really trying to put myself in the customer's position. And that's what counsellors are good at, really. Aren't we? Empathy. That's our bread and butter. Um, and I think, this idea of I'm being so successful, actually, I don't think there was any other competition because for me, you've got national EAPs who cover the width and breadth of the UK, but you've got people in private practice. But what about the gap in the middle, which is the local regional EAP? So I don't think I've done anything particularly extraordinary. I suppose I've just filled a gap in the market at the right time. So that brings us a bit closer to the timeline. And in lockdown, I mean, I'm a Facebookaholic. I don't know about you, but yeah, I'm always on Facebook. And there was a HR group called, well, it'll remain nameless actually. And it was full of HR people. And I always like to keep my finger on the pulse. So I was part of the group. You could never advertise yourself. And I was seeing a lot of questions from HR people up and down the country. It was thousands of people in this group. Oh, I need an EAP. Can anyone give me some tips on where to go? And they were all coming out with the national EAPs. And they'd tag them in and, oh, yeah, we use this. And I was like, why aren't the local EAPs being used? Why aren't they using local companies, local EAPs? And because I couldn't tag myself in, I was getting really frustrated. And these posts used to keep coming. And the one day I was that hacked off. I was like, I can't believe they're still promoting these bloody national companies. And I mean, I hear the horror stories from all our affiliates as to how they're treated. horrific treatment, not being paid or, being told they got to do this or micromanaging. Oh, and I was just like, oh no. So I just thought there's something wrong here. And honestly, it took me about 2 days to calm down from this one particular thread. And then it dawned on me, I had an epiphany and I thought, oh, it's because there aren't any. And then that was it. I joined the dots. So what I decided to do is thought, right, that's it. I'm going to teach counsellors how to copy, emulate what I've done. Um, because I need to backpedal slightly. Yeah, when the girls went to school, I thought, right, there's a real opportunity here to grow it nationally. And I actually grappled with that for 2 years, thinking, could I, should I, will I, won't I? And the bottom line was I always wanted to be a mom and the best mom. And, we all know moms are everything. And I wanted to be there for the girls to and from school, bedtimes. And I just thought if I chase that dream of, succeeding in a corporate arena and becoming a national company, I will have to lose some of my parenting. And I just didn't want to. So for 2 years, yeah, it was a big decision and I don't regret it. I've never wanted to get any bigger than I am. I'm too big now, I think. Um, and yeah, what was more important to me was being a mum. So that's why I want other counsellors to succeed like I have in their own patch, in their own area. I won't train people to do what I do if they live in my patch, because that would be stupid, wouldn't it? So I'm very keen for people to, yeah, learn my trade secrets. And I know I didn't get any training, but I'm very keen for you to learn all my mistakes, tricks of the trade, shortcuts, free stuff. Um, because I really believe this, that, like I don't know if you know this, but 99% of our business economy is SMEs, small to medium enterprises, small businesses. And out of those 99% SMEs, 99% of them are micro SMEs, 1 to 5 employees. So, our country is propped up by small businesses. And the problem is when they go onto the internet and look for an EAP, they only get national EAPs in front of them. And national EAPs cover national companies incredibly well. That works. But for a local business, to me, they should be using someone local. And that's why I'm always trying to encourage companies to work with local companies. And you know what? It's not rocket science. People really buy into this. Local companies want to work with local companies. So that's the point. And when I designed this course 4 years ago, I thought, God, what if I had to start again? What would I want to know? So the actual layout of the courses is a very logical, process-driven way of helping you launch your own EAP. And when because I'm a collaborator, I collaborate all the flipping. I never make decisions on my own. And when I first worked with that cohort, I said, look, how often do you want these sessions? And they were like, oh yeah, once every 2 weeks. And I'm like, you must be joking. What I'm going to give you, even in session one, will probably take you about 3 months to set up. And they were like, no, 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 we want it in every 2 weeks. And I'm like, let's do it every 3 weeks and 4 weeks, see how we go. And that was still not a big enough gap. Obviously, we don't want it to go on forever. So the dates I'm setting for this course are on the basis that you don't want this to go on forever. I'll record everything so that if you miss a session, you can still catch up, you can keep it, you can download it. And of course, all the resources get sent out after each session. So you've always got it. And that seems to work well. It's never what you think it is. I mean, when you want to come up with something new, you have this vision and this image and this fantasy about running an EAP, and it's like, yeah, great. In reality, it's not like that. It's such hard work. And I'm not going to lie, it's not all bells and whistles. However, I've been doing this now for 22 years and I'm working on my exit strategy in a way. 7 years ago, I launched my own counselling training college in Lichfield. And honestly, that has hijacked me for the last 7 years. And it was only June this year that I now managed to get our diploma students, like I started researching, writing, delivering, and marking the courses as they grew, level 2, level 3, level 4. And so the reason why this particular course has been such late in coming is because I've been hijacked by that diploma. Um, Now, obviously, I've not teaching in the summer. I thought I need to get this course launched. So, for those of you that have been waiting, I'm really sorry that this has took so long. I run the listening centre. Well, I say run it. I'm the boss of the listening centre. I do have a small team of staff in the office helping out. They mostly do it day-to-day stuff themselves. I get involved in the more complex stuff. I still teach. I still do mediation. I still deliver training. So I'm so busy, and I really needed that course to finish before I could give this attention. So that's the reason why it's delayed. Um, and I'm just wondering what else you would like to know. Yeah, well, by all means, ask. I mean, the 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 outlay of the course is pretty clear. I'll get Amy to send that over to you. And it's a lot of me talking, less of you asking questions, but by all means, I mean, the better sessions I've ever ran have been with people who interact. I know it's hard because we're all very busy, but for those of you that are just going to rely on the recordings, all I'd say is you're not going to get as much out of it as you would do committing to those sessions. The first cohort of people had about 30 people come. Um, I did put a group together to keep in touch. It hasn't grown as much traction as I would like. The next group, I think, had 8. The next group after that last year was 6. I don't want people to come who were in the same area because that would be a complete conflict of interest. So I know Amy has been looking at that, trying to make sure that you don't enroll and there's someone living 3 doors away that are also going to enroll, because I wouldn't want that for you. I think that's it, actually. I'm going to stop waffling now because I do feel like I'm waffling, and I am talking to myself after all. So I hope that's given you a little bit of insight into why I'm doing this. Um, I want I want counsellors to be able to get this local business, and so to and also to elevate the quality, because I don't subscribe to a very strict 6-session CBT model. I'm an integrative therapist, person centered at heart, and it can work in the workplace. It can happen, and I'm going to show you how. All right. So I'll look forward to meeting you when we start. And meanwhile, if you've got any other random questions, just fire them away and hopefully I'll get to them before we begin the session. Okay, take care. Bye for now.